here as a constructive member of the Rural Independent Group, who have as a whole been very constructive and who have brought in some really good amendments and have submitted them, and this all takes time. And those amendments are based on the views of stakeholders from all around this state. We didn't make these up. This is what the people who operate sawmills are telling us. This is what the contractors are telling us. This is what the foresters are telling us. And this is what the farmers are telling us. And we represent those people. And the fact that you're not taking any of them on board, I tell you, it's completely it's very, very worrying, concerning, because you have a duty here to listen and represent the ordinary people of this state. We come from all parts of this state, and we've brought forward very, very constructive amendments based on what we've been informed of the obstacles by the stakeholders themselves. Now, it's very undemocratic, and I believe it flies in the face of democracy to say that you're not going to accept any of those amendments here tonight. They're very, very reasonable amendments, and I just want to say that I fully support Deputy Fitzmaurice's amendment. That is a very reasonable amendment. I mean, we see timelines everywhere. We see farmers under pressure all of the time to make deadlines. So is it a case of one-way traffic, where the department will come with a heavy hand and tell them they have to make deadlines? But yet, when it comes to the department, they can do as they please. And clearly that's the signal here, and that's the message here, which is an absolute disgrace. We need to make sure that there's a timeline built in here, because it does not instill confidence in anybody. The ordinary people looking on here tonight, I'd say, are shocked that our very reasonable and basic request to put a timeline in is being refused, and we're hearing nonsense, absolute nonsense, which does not justify that. Not at all. And I think the people are going to see through this tonight. The stakeholders who came to us from Kerry, Cork, Tipperary, Limerick and Offaly and Laois, they will see this here tonight. They'll see what's going on, the messing, and I believe it has to stop. You're in here, you have a duty to represent this state. We're all elected to do that. So I would ask you to please review your decision on that amendment. That's a very, very reasonable amendment. And I just want to say that one of my constituents, Mr John O'Connell of Glensack Forestry, he has made a number of very important points in his submission to the department on his bill. And no doubt that's discarded and thrown by the wayside as well. The department don't want to listen to anybody, it appears. But Minister, you need to stand up. Both of you need to stand up and listen to the ordinary people. And John summarises very well the problems which exist, which emphasise the absolute necessity for a timeline for appeals. The reasons for the timeline are as follows. We have a ludicrous situation that Irish sawmills who export much of their produce are running out of raw material and will have to import timber to process, even though there are hundreds of thousands of tonnes of Irish timber held up by appeals. It's beyond belief. Nobody would believe it. Other countries must be looking in saying, what sort of a country is this? Germany and everywhere else where they have an efficient system. Scotland. We don't even need to go too far. Afforestation levels have dropped dramatically, and the acreage of new planting this year is at the same levels not seen since the 1940s. So clearly there's a problem, and we need efficiency. Some forest owners are delaying constructing forest roads until clear fell and not thinning their plantations, further eroding the supply of timber. Landowner confidence, and this is the most important part here, landowner confidence in forestry as a viable enterprise is clearly non-existent. And many forest owners stated that they wished they had never got involved in the first place. Other landowners who were considering forestry as an option have been put off by their neighbours' experiences in dealing with the forestry services. The considerable efforts of various governments over the last 4 decades promoting forestry are being lost here tonight, and it is difficult to see how landowners will commit to planting new land and how the annual planting target of 8,000 hectares under the Climate Action Plan will be realised. You need to go back to the drawing board, and you need to be more constructive with us. We showed good faith and indeed allowed for this to proceed here tonight in good faith, that it was the right thing to do, but the fact that you're closing every door, and every door open that should be open and indeed incorporated into the bill. As I say, we didn't make these up ourselves. These came from constituents, and we'll represent rural constituents here, and I please ask you again to please do the same. You have a duty to represent constituents of rural Ireland.